Okay, Hare Krishna. So my name's siṁha Vallabha Dās. I'm a disciple of Indrajuru Maharaj, and I've been practicing Krishna consciousness since 1992, and I joined the ashram in 92 in the November of the week before the Christmas marathon. That was why it's so it sticks in my mind, that the week before the Christmas book marathon, then I joined then, and that was like my initiation, shall we say. They thought that, well, if he goes out in books for the December and he makes it till the end of the month, then he's in. That was kind of like that was the kind of how it was seen, you know, because I guess to step on the street and try and sell books on philosophy that you're not really familiar with because you're just a new person, and try and do well and be encouraged in that kind of service, and to carry on for the marathon, which really was a marathon. You know, you were starting early and working late, and yeah, it was quite difficult, especially in Scotland. The weather was quite severe, and yeah, so anyway, I managed many after that. Previous to that, I'm from a small town in Scotland, just in the outskirts of Glasgow. It's an area called Lanarkshire, called Bellsill, and no, it's just an ordinary town. There's nothing really special about it. I didn't have any kind of extraordinary upbringing. I lived a pretty normal house in a big scheme with lots of other people. I don't think I was really inclined to any kind of spiritual life. My parents weren't anyway. I was in various boys' clubs when I was young, so we were involved with the church, and also we had like assemblies in the morning at school where the minister would speak. I don't ever remember being really interested. I was interested in God, in a sense, just in the word, like God, there being like something out there other than just ourselves. And I was always scared. I had I'd say a deep fear, and I think that deep fear, maybe some people would think that's some kind of like something that I've carried on my back, and that's why I like take on a kind of spiritual life and not a material life, because I have some like fear of death. But from a very, very young age, I remember very quite clearly having those kind of like thoughts, thinking about the finality of life. Even, I mean, young, you're talking like 7, 8, 9-year-old. Sometimes I would just sit, especially when I was near like the ocean or things like that, when you see the vastness of the ocean, or you look up at the sky at night. Strangely enough, Prabhupada mentions that in one of the purports, and one of his, he talks about man's kind of like looking up into the sky at night and wondering about the whole thing. So I always had these feelings when I was very young, and they stuck with me. I got quite frightened about the whole thing, about there being like just nothing and just living for nothing. I just didn't really see the point in the whole living for nothing thing. And so that was I guess that was an impetus, an early impetus that carried with me, a kind of desire to kind of understand just more than what we were all doing at the time, which is, you know, playing football, or I don't know, doing all the stuff you do when you're a kid, you know, climbing trees, and so I didn't really have any real desire for any kind of spiritual life, and I wasn't influenced in any way by anybody when I was young. There was like I said, boys' clubs, and we were in what's called the Boys' Brigade, which is like I guess it's a boys' club, and you do like marching and things. It's the kind of like I don't know really what the point of that is, but it gets just to put people in a kind of group. And I always found myself that I like being in groups. You know, that was the thing. I like being in groups. My own family upbringing, although I've got a brother and a sister, and obviously a mother and father, we were never really close emotionally. It wasn't really like a solidly kind of formed family. We all kind of just lived together. You know, my father worked, my mother worked, and we kind of met each other somewhere at a dinner table sometimes, and but we were never really. It was never really close, and I think that lack of kind of emotional response was a good what's the word, impetus for me to try and find like friendship and love and these things, which I didn't know at the time. I know this now because I can reflect on it with a slightly better intelligence. Looking for some groups. I was always in groups, you know, martial arts, rugby. I mean, I guess lots of people are in groups, but for me, there was a kind of emotional fulfillment in there, that I felt kind of connected to people. You were doing the same thing. You felt inspired. You felt like you had some value. I think that was one of the kind of main themes. You felt like you had some sort of value. So I think that stuck with me through my life. I was always trying to find like the friend, you know, the person to be with, you know. And where it was like a girlfriend, they always think you have a girlfriend. When I got a little bit older, that, you know, that would be it. I'd have like a girlfriend, and that would satisfy the need, the desire. And then by the time you're 16, 17 for myself, then I kind of forgot about, you know, I forgot about a lot of the things I thought about in relation to like the finality of life, and I got involved like everybody else does in many other pursuits. And yeah, well, it's not so Krishna conscious, but I guess in a sense these were all like events leading up to why I would separate myself to some degree from kind of worldly life, the life we have around us. I liked singing from a young age. I liked singing. I grew up just like, I had a guitar. I played a little bit of guitar, but I liked singing. I don't know whether I was a really good singer, but I liked singing, and I always thought I'd like to be in a band. You know, I was influenced at a young age by Ozzy Osbourne. It's his fault, but I was a big Black Sabbath fan when I was a real young kid, and I just really liked the music, rock music, and I always thought, well, I'd like to be in a band, you know. So I was always singing in the house, playing my brother's records when he wasn't in, and I would be singing all this stuff, and I really liked. So therefore, when I during school again, before, nothing ever happened musically when I was at school. I was in the choirs and stuff when I was in primary school for singing, and that was quite nice. I just liked singing, and later on, I was good at school. I liked school. And I was good, but I got influenced again. I got in with a kind of group who just liked to sit around in the evening and listen to music and take drugs. That was the thing, you know. So it wasn't really the taking of drugs that was really the thing that kind of did it for me. It was more the fact that I had just involved myself with another group of people who accepted me, and I felt quite kind of comfortable. They were a little bit older, and I used to hang out with these guys, you know, in the evening time, and slowly my school and everything fell apart. And with the smoking and taking drugs, other drugs, I got kind of really like disenchanted by everything, and I guess it made me really lazy, in some degree, really non-desirous for like participating in not what my father and mother would want me to have. And I kind of like bummed out at school, to use a word. I kind of failed a lot of my exams. All the teachers were really like distraught because they thought I was going to pass everything. I turned up late for my exams. I just didn't care. I lost the impetus for caring. And that was when I was like 16, so I was 15, 16 then. And of course, when we left school, I didn't go to university or college or anything. I just started working right away, which was quite good for me. I got a good job. I was a plumber by trade, and I served apprenticeship through one of these courses that the government, for people who had no qualification, you started like a course. But in the course of that 1 year course, if you were good, sometimes the companies would take you on. So I didn't like it. I didn't want to work. I didn't know what I wanted to do. When I was that age, 16, 17, I had an idea that I wanted to have a big truck. And this is relevant to later on. I wanted a big truck, like an army truck. I always wanted to be in the army as well. That was a thing. I thought the army would be a good thing. I was into like warfare, and not actually into warfare like warfare, but I like to read about warfare and these things. and I thought that would be quite a good thing, to be like a commando, like to be something. I think that's a relevant theme in my life. I was always trying to be something, and I was very frustrated by that, because as you'll maybe see as I talk on, none of it ever worked out for me very, very well. So yeah, I had these desires to have a big truck and just travel round. Like at that time we were younger, we were traveling quite a lot. I was hitching when I was like 16, 17. We were going to like music festivals and things, and so I was thinking that if I had like a truck, then I could travel to these festivals and I could live in it, like a camper van. And yeah, and later on I tried to bring that into existence. It never happened, because I was interested in healing, like kind of Reiki type thing. It wasn't Reiki, I didn't know what Reiki was then, but it was I had a kind of group I found, and I was in contact with them, and I was learning these kind of healing techniques and crystals and things. So in my kind of hippie mindset, I was thinking that would be a good idea as a lifestyle, to travel and just like try and heal people. That was a thing I thought would be a good thing. I would make a living of that, and I wouldn't have to involve myself again so much with the comings and goings with material life, and I can be somewhat independent in that respect. That was the kind of dream I had. I used to think about this when I was walking back and forward to work. Yeah, what was I getting to?
The truck.
So that never manifested, the truck itself, not in the way I wanted it. That's later on. It will come up later on. I'm just trying to think of the part. Yeah, work. So yeah, I worked for many years, and then the whole band thing manifest. I had a friend who was a school friend, and he played guitar. his father and his uncle were in a band. They were very good musicians, and so we would go along to see them, and he would play guitar. So he had another friend that played guitar, and they had a kind of band. They formed a band, and I wasn't involved. But one night I went along to see the band practice, and the singer, he was okay. He was I was only young, remember, I was only like 16, 17, and I was very proud, and I thought, yeah, I was just very proud. I was very arrogant and very proud. And when I listened to him, I thought, he's not very good. And he saw me one time, I was making this kind of funny face like that, in my horribleness of being young. And he was older, he was like 24, 25, and he got really upset at me, and he shouted at me, "You think you can do any better? You come up and sing then." So I went, all right. And I got up and I sang one of these songs, and they kicked him out of the band. And I joined, so that was me on the road. I thought that was it, that was the road. I forgot everything else that I ever had any desire for, and I just fixed my mind. That was my main thing, because after we'd played a few gigs and things, just the feeling of being on stage, and yeah, I guess like I say, it's that thing, trying to be something. And through the years I maintained that, different bands, and when I moved to London with a band, we tried to kind of make it, so to speak. And we had all the contacts and all the other things going on, and there was a possibility, a promise of maybe kind of getting somewhere. But I became very much disillusioned by that, because it seemed such an endeavour. Maybe I'm just lazy, and I didn't really like to make that kind of endeavour. But I thought the endeavour to try and become, I was speaking about this the other day, the other night. I mentioned this quite a lot, of all the kind of stars, the music stars we met at that time when we were in London, and all the concerts we went to, and the parties and the backstage and all these things that was going on. Some of the musicians, famous musicians that I spoke to, I just thought they were just ordinary people, and they were just making a living. And I thought, well, that's no different from me making a living, say, as I was then. I was working during the day, and we were trying to gig at night, so I was just doing plumbing. So I thought it wasn't any different, and I became disillusioned by that also, the desire to really search for that kind of fame and be in the limelight when you're young, and to get all the royalties that come from that, sex, drugs and rock and roll type kind of lifestyle seemed like,
Can you tell about the story with David Coverdale?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, okay. So on a point of we had been to see this band Thunder. It was in the early 90s, and they were kind of big at the time, and they were touring, and it was Hammersmith Odeon, and we were there, and there was a party afterwards in the Hammersmith Hotel across the road. So we were invited because the promoters, main promoter, he was the cousin of one of the guitarists in our band, and he was involved with everybody, you know, all the rock, everybody that was famous in rock then. He arranged the Monsters of Rock Festival, which is now Download, you know, all these things. He's a very prominent person. So he would invite us everywhere, and we would be VIP, you know, we'd have the pass, and we really thought we were the, you know, the bee's knees, as they say, we would travel quite a lot, we'd go to different gigs and stuff. So we were at this party in the Hammersmith Hotel. It was a function suite, and there was music going on, and there were different kind of stars there, music stars that you recognised also were there, and David Coverdale, who used to be in Deep Purple, and then of course Whitesnake. I think maybe he's still even in Whitesnake now. I mean, he's quite an old man, but then he must have been about 40, and I'm maybe about 21 or something. And I met him in the toilet of all things. He was next to me in the toilet, and I thought it's my chance to speak to him. And he's a very, very nice man, and we were polishing our boots on the polish machine, you know, and while there we were in that small association I had with him, I asked him about what it was like now that he was older and established compared to what it was when he was just younger and getting into it and becoming famous. And it was really him that dissuaded me. He didn't deliberately try to dissuade me, just that what he said to me was that he was just, basically what I got from what he said was that he was just maintaining the image. He had to maintain the image, you know. He got famous, enjoyed that fame, you know, what comes with that, the money and all the other things that came with becoming famous. But then after that, once you get all that, then in order to maintain that, you have to maintain like everybody else has to maintain their life. And at the end of it, as before he left the toilet, he said to me, the only difference between me and you possibly is that you're getting a taxi home and I'm leaving from a helicopter pad in the roof. And I thought, yeah, that's really, he's just having to maintain himself. And I thought, well, I don't want to make that endeavour to try and, the endeavour to try and become famous in the eyes of some people, become like an icon in that respect, and have all that wealth and try and enjoy it and spend it and maybe waste it, because at that time I was drinking a lot and taking a lot of intoxication, and I probably wouldn't be alive in the next 5 years if I kept going, and then having to maintain that all my life. And now when I look at stars who are like in their 70s, and sometimes it's quite sad that they have to try and, it's like a job, a profession, and I didn't want to do it. So that day I just walked away, that night I walked away thinking, no, I'm not going to do music anymore. I'm not going to make that endeavour just to have to maintain. There must be certainly some other way to maintain my life that is just a lot easier. Yeah, easier. I guess I'm a bit of a, what is it? I don't know what the word is. Maybe I don't have a lot of determination for lots of things, and I was always looking for something that was very, very simple. Later on, of course, when I came home from London and I left London, I got into like reading different books. I had Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which didn't really make much sense to me, but I just thought they were kind of cool, and the concepts about the soul and they kind of struck a chord with me, and I was interested. I started doing this meditation, you know, chanting Om, and I had a little cupboard in my bedroom, and I would sit in this cupboard in my bedroom and shut the door so it was dark, and I would just sit with my eyes closed, and I would try, and I wasn't very good at visualization, but visualization was a thing, to try and imagine the colours of the chakras and chant Om. And I really, really liked it. I thought I was really kind of getting it. I was still taking lots of intoxicants, but I still thought it was something nice. It was something that took me away from like everyday life. I wasn't involved with any kind of like God or any of these kind of things, any of these kind of concepts. It was just purely for myself, like health, and it was my version of spirituality. That was what it started. It started that. I still had the crystals. I had my rune stones. And I would try and do a little bit